Weiner is the director, and Adam Finkelstein and Jenny Ferris and Karen Samuel and others, I'm going to not say all the names that I should have, I apologize, are really here to take us through some thinking around assessments in the fall. And as some of you are probably aware, Jillian Nickham's also here. Hi, Jillian. She and I are helping lead the fall planning when it comes to looking at academic program delivery. And one of the questions that's come up quite a lot recently is how might we think about assessments in the fall? And I think, Adam, we can probably start the presentation, and I'll take us through the first couple of slides, and then I'll hand it over to the teaching and learning services team to take us through the rest of the presentation, the rest of the activity today. So when it comes to thinking about our academic planning for the fall, assessments are on everybody's mind, of course. And because we are fairly confident of what we're calling what the realistic scenario might look like for the fall, this includes some physical distancing measures and includes likely that we won't be using things like the field house, for example, for final exams. So we're trying to figure out how we're looking at this combination of both online and in-person assessments. And we're a little bit concerned that there might be a very, very high demand for in-person assessments from a lot of instructors. And I think we're going to be able to meet a lot of that demand, but we're not sure yet whether or not there still might be some capacity limitations. And there may also be very, very good reasons otherwise why some online assessments can and should remain as online assessments. I think we're all very familiar with what that's meant this academic year, but it's really the question of what can we carry forward for the right reasons into the fall, which has the added benefit of reducing some of the demand on the more traditional in-person assessments that we would have been familiar with pre-pandemic, if I could put it that way. And go to the next slide, Adam. And some of the feedback, so I'm going to now specifically focus on the online assessments, which is the kind of the purpose of today's session with teaching and learning services. We've heard a lot of different feedback about online assessments. We've heard positive and negative feedback. I think on the positive side, we've heard from instructors that having typed answers and being able to include different kinds of media into the assessments was a real benefit that doesn't exist in a more traditional sit-down assessment style. Students very much appreciated the flexibility and opportunity to access course material with open book tests. So the idea of testing not necessarily a rote memory approach, but other kinds of synthetic learning that can come from different kinds of assessment that aren't the more traditional sit-down assessments. And we heard certainly, and we know that a lot of students that would have been registered with OSD and maybe would normally have had an accommodation that allowed for additional time because of the long time window with a lot of the online assessments, there were fewer accommodations required for many students registered with OSD. Now, some of the concerns, probably the biggest one we've heard from a lot of instructors are this concern about academic integrity and the fact that a lack of invigilation suggested that there may be concerns about students that aren't working honestly or working in ways that maybe ways that certainly in some areas we saw increases of allegations of academic integrity. So that's one concern, academic integrity and invigilation. In some disciplines, there was concern because it was really difficult to replicate using remote means the kind of assessments that were kind of necessary for that particular discipline. So there are lots of different kinds of ways that it was navigated and creative ways to try to do assessments that didn't require physical presence, but it was difficult in some areas. And one of the other big concerns we heard is that this very long time window meant that students wrote exams over many, many hours. Even if the exam was designed to be a shorter amount of time, the students, if they were given a particular window, they would use that entire window. And so it ended up being that 3-hour exams, or normally 2 or 3 hour exams, would be 6-hour exams, for example. So definitely the online assessments had some good features, but definitely some concerns as well. Okay, Adam. So when we look to the fall term, I wanted to just mention a couple of things that might help with some of the framing of today's session and some of the framing around our planning. One of the reasons we had most faculties look at this longer time window for some of the assessments was because we were aware that many of our students were studying in different time zones, and there were other attributes of this past term that suggested that longer time window was really quite important for many of our learners and many of our instructors, frankly. But when we look to the fall term, however, because there's an expectation that our students will be in Montreal, if instructors wish to hold online assignments and online assessments, they could be held over much shorter time windows, and they could be held synchronously during class time, for example. So this is, again, a shift compared to what we did this past academic year, because, again, we often generally had the longer time windows, but instructors can absolutely hold shorter time window assessments, which in many ways helps tackle some of those concerns that some instructors had about so much time that students may have been accessing material that they shouldn't have been, for example, or collaborating in ways that were not part of the plan. Now, that being said, if we're going to look to shorter time windows for online assessments, they obviously have to be scaled relative to the amount of time available. We can't have a really high weight, generally speaking, a high weight kind of assessment in a very short synchronous amount of time available in a class time, for example. So really, that's one of the big changes when we start to think about ways we might be able to do online assessments for the fall, is to think a little bit differently in terms of the amount of time available for the assessments. Now, that being said, instructors will have to think about the fact that some students might have technical issues. There might be additional increases in accommodation requests for students that would normally be accommodated with extra time windows for their assessments. Go ahead, Adam.
That's right.
Okay, so really that was just to give you a general view of what we're doing here today and how it kind of fits into the fall planning overall. So the purpose again today is to really focus on some discussions about online assessment, online examination options. And I don't get to speak anymore, thank goodness. I'm going to hand it over to Adam and the team from TLS, who will take it from here. And thanks again for being here, everyone.
Thanks so much, Chris, for setting the stage. I think that's really critical because, as we all know, this fall of 2021 is not going to be the same as fall 2020, and I think that's probably a good thing across the board. So here today to talk about fall 2021 online examination options and alternatives. I'm Adam Finkelstein. I'm the Associate Director for Learning Environments at TLS. I know a huge number of you, so it sort of feels like I'm talking to a group of old colleagues, which is great. So you can tell me when I'm off base, and feel free to throw something at me as I talk virtually, of course, because we have a chat running on the side. Just to make sure I shout out as well that this is a sort of a group think when it comes to group creation, when it comes to talking a lot about these issues. And really, this is just the first of many conversations that are going to happen over the next few months as we help everybody get prepared for fall 2021. Many thanks, of course, to Laura and the team at TLS, and special thanks to Carolyn, my co-conspirator, who usually would be up here yelling back and forth with me, which would be great, which we will do more of in the coming weeks. So just quickly, one of the things I wanted to start with is it's really useful to expose your own thinking as you go through these processes. And one of the things that I've been heavily thinking about in my own learning is reconciliation and what that means to me as a Canadian, and how land acknowledgements are really the first step towards that. So I just want to start with acknowledging the land that we're learning on today. And the land that we're learning on today physically is here, is a traditional to territorial ancestral territory of Indigenous peoples, including the Kanien'kehá:ka and Haudenosaunee nations. So I acknowledge and thank the diverse Indigenous peoples whose footsteps have marked this territory on which we are now gathering today. And although we are here virtually, most of us are physically here around Turtle Island and the island of Montreal. So what I want to talk about today, or when we're going to start today, is three major kind of outcomes for our session. The first is being able to allow you to be able to describe the different types of online assessment tools that are available, and what those entail, some of the benefits and drawbacks, and how you might be able to use them in your upcoming planning for fall 2021. Second is identifying the appropriate tools to support your assessments. And third is being able to select strategies to support academic integrity in your online assessments, which is a great concern for a number of people. So what I also want to do is start off with a burning question opening. So most of you have thought about this topic. There's about 140 of you, so clearly there's some interest around online assessment. So I'd want to invite you to use the chat to post some of your burning questions about online assessment. And we'll touch on some of these. This gives me an indication of some of the things that are really important to you. And I'd like you to keep through this whole session is keep the chat flowing. We have, as I mentioned, a small army of TLS people behind the scenes that are here to help answer questions, deal with issues, and you'll see links being periodically posted. Much thanks to Carolyn. Thank you for that as we go through our session. Again, feel free to post those. We'll continue on a little bit as we go, unless anybody posts anything immediately. I know that Chris and others have already posted and asked and answered some of these. Thanks for some private messaging about old colleagues. No, it's not old colleagues, old friends or longtime friends. Maybe it's a better word for me to use. Okay, so as we continue, I want to talk about 4 things that I think are important when we need to think about how the pandemic has impacted assessment. The first is that it's clearly raised awareness of tools to support diverse assessment types in online assessment. And I think this is evident when you talk to any of our staff that I had no idea you could do this is a very common phrase that we've heard in the last year about a lot of the tools that we have. And so exposure to these tools and knowing what these tools can and can't do are clearly critical, but it's also really important to know that we are really in a different place than we were about a year ago. The second is that there's clearly an increased student and instructor experience with these online assessments as well. We've noticed this on our staff that your questions have gotten more and more sophisticated. Your levels of knowledge have gotten more and more sophisticated, and it's even more and more challenging to come up with ideas to help you implement some of the great suggestions and thinking that you have when you're trying to design assessments or courses in general to take advantage of the different learning environments we have at McGill. The third is that it's very clear that there are opportunities with online assessments to increase feedback to students on their learning. So one of the things that we need to be thinking about is how can we take advantage of this in a smart way that doesn't overburden students, that really provides that feedback in timely ways at appropriate times in the appropriate amounts. And I think, this is one of those scales that we start to play with over the last year. Maybe we go from too much, maybe we go to too little, and trying to find that balance. And I think that that's something that's important to think about as we move forward, that clearly the pandemic has provided a huge amount of opportunities to give students lots of feedback. The important thing is, well, is it the proper feedback at the right time with the right amounts? The fourth thing is it's clear we have an enhanced capacity infrastructure to support all of these diverse online assessments that we really didn't have as much of previously. Yes, we had some tools around a learning management system, but we've expanded to a whole bunch of new tools. I think last summer we vetted something like 30 or 35 different tools in certain niche areas, doing simulations and labs online, all sorts of stuff to be able to support the types of learning that you want to do in your courses with your students. Okay, in order to think through that beginning process, there are some guiding questions about selecting assessment types that I want to seed with you as we move forward, that you can keep in your mind that I think are going to keep coming back over and over and over as you start that planning process. So one of the most key ones, which I think a lot of you already know or are thinking about, is what do you want students to know, value, or be able to do? And obviously, depending on what you want to do in this situation, what you want students to know or what you want students to value or what you want them to do is going to really guide you to the types of tools and the types of assessment types that you need to do to be able to ensure that you know that students are learning what you're hoping that they're learning. The second is, how much time do you want to allot to the assessment? And this is kind of an interesting question because, we noticed this last fall as an example is that when you give an assessment, you're thinking, well, here's something I want you to spend an hour on. Sometimes students, will say, oh, great, I'll take that and I'll spend an hour. Of course, if you give them 3 days, they might spend the entire 3 days on that particular assessment that's being provided. So there might be reasons to say, you know what, I'm just going to actually have you do this synchronously live so I can constrain the time. So I only want you to spend 45 minutes in this thought process. So I'm only going to give you 45 instead of giving you 45 minutes over 5 days, in which case, they never leave their computer. We have a lot of keener students at McGill, obviously, and that's one of the things things that we need to be aware of and think about how much time and how important this assessment is. And we can use time as a way to constrain and focus attention, which I think is really critical. Third, which I think is really important for thinking about all of our assessments, is, are you providing multiple and diverse opportunities for students to demonstrate their learning? So what we really want to try and do, based on everything we know about pedagogy, is provide a lot of opportunities for students to show that they've learned what you wanted them to learn in the first place. So one assessment once at the end of the term, we know is not enough to be able to do that. So we need to think about what are ways that we can do this in a way that's manageable. Something where if you've got 500 students, how do you do this? How do you change your assessments from what would be the standard multiple choice in-person and final exam that you might have done in the past, or a particular final midterm that you might have done online? So that's another one of our guiding questions to think about. And lastly, have you considered different options to foster academic integrity? And academic integrity is an important issue because, academic integrity, or at least a lot of the research talks about, you have academic integrity and you have assessment security. And they're kind of like these two pieces of a balance, where academic integrity is a little bit more like crime prevention, if you want to say it that way. And assessment security is more like policing. So we need to balance these things. And I think there are different options that you can choose that allow you to sort of get some of these problems out of the way. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about a little bit more today. So in order to step forward from this, I wanted to give you a quick overview of an example of how we can take different ways that students can demonstrate learning online based on the types of assessments that you might want to do. So we've broken these into two different categories: generally synchronous ways of doing things. So for example, everybody in the same place, quote unquote, same time, i.e. doing a My Courses quiz, doing something in Zoom Live or other tools that we have, or asynchronous tools. And on that side, we have quizzes that can be done asynchronously, My Course assignments, discussions, peer grade, all sorts of other tools that we have for asynchronous, meaning that not everybody has to be doing it at the same place, same time. And of course, I'm realizing that now here I am talking to you and I mix the graphics up. When you duplicate your slides 50 times and now I've got two graphics, those graphics are supposed to be this way and not this way. Anyways, all the funny things that you notice as you finally get, no matter how much you review the slides that you're doing. So let's just take a couple of examples here that are really important. So for example, if you want to create an open book quiz, midterm, or final. So anything you do online is by default open book. So let's think of an open book quiz, midterm, and final. And clearly a synchronous My Courses quiz is ideal for that. Start your quiz, you have 3 hours, here we go, submit, done, finished, off we go. Whereas, for example, if I want something that's auto-graded knowledge checks, so for example, maybe I want a few questions interspersed with some content. So like, here's a little video, here's some questions, here's little video questions. Well, that's something you also can do with the My Courses quiz in a more asynchronous mode, as an example. Others we have, let's say you want to have an oral debate with your students. A great thing you can do on Zoom: split up into teams, split up into groups, have a live debate, a discussion that's happening real time, as an example. It would be kind of hard to do an oral debate asynchronously, but it's really a synchronous activity, as an example. Another one could be creating a group presentation. And this is one that could actually be both. So you could actually have students create a presentation and deliver it live via Zoom, either in a group or on their own, or you could have them do it, record it, and actually use the My Courses assignment tool, as an example. We'll get into some more specifics moving forward. Completing a take-home exam, again, My Courses assignment tool. Here's the exam, come back in 3 days and submit it, as an example. Writing an essay. Here's a project that I want you to write on, or here's a research paper I want you to write, using the My Courses assignment tool to be able to manage that process. Another one, having a written debate. So maybe you want to have a debate that isn't oral, that actually requires students to do some legwork, research, and writing. Well, that's another tool that we could use with, or example we could use with the My Courses discussion tool, as an example there too. Others, reflections and journaling with My Courses discussions. Evaluating each other's work. So maybe you want students to work and evaluate with each other. We have tools like Peer Grade that allow you to do that. And you could even do that with My Courses discussions, where you actually have star ratings and things about posts that might be there, or arguments that students might be working on. Evaluating their contributions to group work, again, something you could do with Peer Grade, as well as other things that we haven't talked too much about. For example, developing a portfolio of work with other tools that we have. And lastly, completing a simulation. And then those are really good examples of other tools where you might be doing a lab simulation live synchronously, where there's a timer and things happen at specific times. Or maybe you want to do it asynchronously, where you go in and work with a tool that allows you to start a lab, maybe leave, come back, do work, etc., and work through that simulation as an example. So these are a lot of different ways that you can demonstrate learning online. And what we're really going to focus on a little bit more today is the My Courses quiz tool and the My Courses assignment tool. And these two tools are really critical to give you the flexibility for sort of synchronous and asynchronous types of assessments to be able to set them up, design them, and deliver them and use them with your students. But before we get there, I want to do a quick poll because I want to sort of see where everybody is. And I'm just going to start this poll right here in a second to think about this poll. And you should be able to see this now as to which tools have you used for online assessments. So go ahead and answer here. Check as many as you've used, and let's just see where everybody is. All right, we're getting there. Getting there. All right, perfect. Okay, so it looks like a large number of you have voted, which is great. I'm just going to, I assume everybody can see the poll, or no, not yet. Can you see my results yet or no? All right, here, I'm going to end the poll and just see if you can share the results. There we go. Okay, so the leading one here is My Course assignments and quizzes, which is great because that's exactly what we're going to discuss today. But a number of you have used other different tools, and a few of you have used some of these other tools that we have available, Crowdmark, Tools of VoiceThread, which we'll mention a little bit later. A number of you said other. Would love to know what tools you're using. Please reach out to us later. We'd love to hear more about which tools you're using for which types of assessments online. Okay, I noticed, and I had a chance to kind of look through the chat, and there's a whole bunch of questions flowing through, which is great. I do want to mention a couple of things that are going to come up very quickly, and that is going to be related to academic integrity. So there are a lot of questions here about, well, if we have CHEG, there's nothing we can do, et cetera. No, there is. There's a lot of things that can be done, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about. The first thing I want to mention is some results from a fantastic webinar by a guy, Dawson, in Australia that talks a lot about academic integrity. And I want to mention a study that he cited in his talk that I think is particularly useful. And it talks about students' perception of likelihood of contract cheating. So this was done in a study of about 14,000 students across 8 institutions in Australia. And they're defining contract cheating as basically any way that a student can get somebody else to do their work. Okay, so it's not necessarily like going and buying papers. It could be getting somebody to come in and do an exam or give you the answers or anything along those lines. What's really interesting is that the students' perceptions of the likelihood of that are directly connected to variables that we as faculty have control over. And I think that's really important to think through, is that if you look at the results here, is that heavily weighted tasks with short turnaround times provide the scenarios where their students are most likely to engage in academic dishonesty or contract cheating. And I think that's really important because these are both things that we can change. So we can change the weightings of tasks. So in other words, if an assignment is worth 60% of your grade, that's an indication that, you know, the students ratchet up the stress and we ratchet up the weight and we create a scenario that is more likely for things to occur. Does it mean it's automatic? No. Is that something we're going to do anyways? Maybe. But I think it's something we need to keep in mind, that heavily weighted task, and of course the short turnaround time, which is like you only get 2 hours to do this, right? All of these things contribute to the factors of increasing things like contract cheating. And what's interesting is they've done some more studies about turnaround time, and shortening the turnaround time doesn't really drop the cheating either. So these are important because that we as faculty can think about how are we going to design our assessments writ large, all of our assessments, and take into account that we need to think about not weighting anything so high that we might have students engage in something that we don't want them to engage in, and thinking about the turnaround time. Now, of course, face-to-face assessments, we have a hammer that we're able to avoid some of these things, and that's called invigilation. So if we have an invigilation face-to-face, we can kind of hammer it onto students so that, well, we can prevent you from doing anything other than the exam. But what's very interesting is that although we're hammering it on the one side of the issue of, yes, we might be able to drop off the issues of contract cheating. And there is no indication to say that in-person invigilation removes it entirely. But what we aren't doing is dealing with the stress. And the stress is a huge issue that we have to think about as well. And I think there are things that we can do to design, especially when we're dealing with online assessments, to take these things into account. So let's talk a little bit about my course's quizzes, which is the first thing I wanted to mention, so to at least get the ground rules so everybody's aware of what these tools can do and how these tools can help. The quiz tool allows you to create timed assessments, start time, stop time, okay? Starts at 9, ends at 12, button push, finished. Oh, what happens when a student gets to 12? Well, we force them to submit, or we allow them to submit, there's a warning, or there's all sorts of variables around that, but it's really timed as an example. You can have multiple question types, different types of media, any types of media you can imagine that's digital. You can have a question library, i.e. large pools of questions that you can draw from in the creation of those quizzes. You can allow for multiple attempts and multiple restrictions. We'll talk about that. And of course, everything's linked to your gradebook, which makes all of these things a little bit more manageable. And of course, you can view statistics and view reports and feedback based on this tool. So what are the question types? Well, there's basically two types of question types. One is selecting responses and one is generating responses. Selecting responses are what you'd expect of true, false, multiple choice, select, matching, etc. Anywhere that students are choosing options that are in front of them. Now, most of the selecting responses are generally easier to create at the lower levels of learning. So things like remembering, recall, etc. Doesn't mean you can't create high level multiple choice questions. It's just very difficult to do so, and something that you need a lot of practice in to be able to do well. But also this tool has the ability to generate a response. And if you look on this side, there's the idea of writing in a document, there's adding a file, recording audio, recording video. So the generating a response from a student does not have to be written, typed, or anything. Could be drawn, could be recorded, it could be uploaded. So things like short answer, multiple answers, fill in the blanks, arithmetic, significant figures, all these different types of responses. And you'll see with the green checkbox, all of these can be auto-graded, meaning that you have an answer and they can be graded and done and finished in one sweep. The last one, of course, the written or uploaded responses, is something that you actually have to look at and grade yourself. So there are a couple important things around restrictions in this tool that can be very, very useful in your planning and design. The first is availability. So you can have it available for a certain period of time, i.e. let's say for an hour once you start it, or you can have it only available from like 9 to 10, 10 to 11, something like that as well. So you have a lot of flexibility there. Second is, of course, you have an enforced time limit. So you can say you have 1 hour to do it, and you can say it's open from 9 to 10. So then there's only 1 hour, or you can say you have 1 hour in between 9 and 10:30. And as soon as you start it, the timer starts to go. And then at the end of it, you can say there's a grace period for submission or not, all customizable by you. The third is release conditions. So you can actually set up quizzes so that things happen in your course based on whether or not people have completed or how well they do in particular assessments. So for example, if someone does a practice midterm and they don't do particularly well on it, you can actually give them a recommendation, say, by the way, here's some more content and here's some videos from last term that I want you to review before we move forward. Lastly is special access. And given some of the context that Chris provided at the beginning, this is going to be critical, is that you can accommodate special needs of any students directly with special access, and you can give certain students more time, et cetera. And all those accommodations can be done, but they have to be done with the tool itself. And that's something that's going to be important. And we obviously will see a rise in moving forward. A couple of points. How do we foster academic integrity with online quizzes? And there's five things that I think are really important here. The first is using multiple question types. Obviously, just using selected responses, you're going to have an easier time fostering academic integrity if you have different types of responses. So you can have, a response you select and responses that you generate, including, and I think a really interesting opportunity is have students upload their work. So you can say, here's a problem. I want you to solve the problem on paper, take a picture of it and upload it. Done. Student original work submitted inside the quiz tool and something that you can grade. So again, you don't necessarily have to use one or the other, but obviously a combination is going to be extremely helpful in terms of fostering academic integrity. The second is being able to shuffle questions and answers. So you can essentially create almost an unlimited number of versions of your quiz. So every student essentially has a different version, depending on how many questions and answers you have. Because if you scramble the answers and you scramble the questions and you have an hour to complete them, it's going to be very, very difficult to kind of shuffle all of these things around. You can shuffle them at section levels. So you can have 3 parts of the exam and have different types of scrambling going on at different types of sections of the exam, as an example. You can create a question pool. So for example, you can say, I've got 100 questions and I'm going to draw 50 of them from this 100, and it's going to be randomly picked. Or you can be a little bit more precise and say, this section of the exam, I want to draw 10 questions from a group of 20. This one, I want to draw 10 questions from a group of 50. All of those things are customizable once you create a question library that you're able to manage. You can create meaningful sections. So you could have a first part of an exam and a second part of exam, where after you complete the first part, you can't return once you start the second. Now, there's particularly uses for this. Let's say pedagogically, if you have a 2-part exam, one is on a diagnosis and one is on treatment, you might be able to start it off where you have diagnosis, and the second one then say, okay, well, regardless of what you did in the diagnosis, if you got it correct or not, we're going to start with this diagnosis to talk about treatment. So that's an example of things where you can force sections. Now, one of the things that's important is you're not allowed to force question by question forward. So you're not allowed to force students to say, you do this question, you go to the second, you can't go back and change. But you could do it within a pool. And I think there are some further questions and follow-up about, well, how large of a pool does it have to be? And that's something that could be followed up with some of the procedures that we want to look at for the fall term. And the last is you can manage how you share results. So you can control access to results. You can limit the length of review. So say once you look at it, you have 20 minutes to look at the results of how you did, and then it goes away. Or you can say, I'm only going to show you the stuff you answered incorrectly. All of these have different benefits and drawbacks in your choices. But again, all 5 of these are there to be able to sort of up the level of academic integrity. If you use multiple question types, you shuffle questions and answers, you could potentially create pools, look at different sections and manage those share results. And you've already created many steps in the process that make it much harder for students to be able to do any contract cheating in that process. Okay. So I know that there were a whole bunch of questions here. What I think I'll probably do is I'll talk a little bit about the My Courses assignments, and then we'll sort of open it up to questions for everybody so that we can bounce around a little bit as we move forward. And I think a lot of my colleagues are frantically responding to some of the things in the chat as well. It's definitely not easy to manage the chat and talk at the same time, but hey, this is something that's important everybody to do moving forward. So I thank you for that. Can you move questions you've entered for quizzes into pools for later use? All questions from quizzes come from the pool. So in other words, you create a question library, and that library can be used to manage every single quiz you do in the course, start to finish. So you can upload and manage all of that in one bulk. You can add old question libraries to your course. And so there's a lot of opportunity for that scrambling if you really want to. In fact, I would say that scrambling and shuffling in a My Courses quiz is a lot easier than actually doing it face-to-face, as an example. Okay, so what is the assignment tool? Let's talk a little bit about the assignment tool. And that's the idea that you can collect student artifacts, different types of artifacts, and track their submission. So you can create an opportunity where students have to do something and upload the evidence of their learning so that you can then manage all those submissions, track them, and grade them. So for example, you get submission receipts in that process, and you can grade and provide feedback on student submissions. So you will know the time that they published it, whether it's complete, what it's there, if you've already read it. You've got examples of students that have not yet done a particular submission, as well as ones that might particularly be submitted late, as an example. Again, the assignments tool allows you to manage the submission process start to finish, and it does a really great job at doing that. Some of the options that are important in the assignment tool, you can do things individually or you can do things as a group. So a group can submit an assignment, an individual can submit an assignment. The submission types can be any type of file or media or text. It can be paper that's taken photos of and scanned. And you can even do observations. So go into the field, fill out this observation form, and submit it with the assignment tool. Again, it's that idea that anything you want students to submit in terms of media, you can manage with the assignment tool. Third, You have lots of timing and options that are available: due date, start date, end date, and of course that's special access, meaning that you can create accommodations for any particular scenario for students that you need to do as part of the process with OSD. And lastly, is they have a lot of options with assignment tool for grading. So the ability to obviously connect right to the gradebook. You can annotate directly inside My Courses to be able to draw on assignments and write on them if you want. There's an opportunity for blind grading, so you can actually not see what any of the names of the people that you're grading are. And of course, you can use rubrics, which are great for students to expose what's important and guidance ahead of time, as well as something that helps you can guide yourself in that process of grading with students. So fostering academic integrity with assignments. This is another important thing to think about as well, about how can we create structures and create scenarios that make it more difficult or increase exam security at the same time as fostering academic integrity moving forward. Well, with assignments, one of the things that's key is applying personal experience. So getting students to connect to the assessment and bring in some kind of personal experience that they have is one way to sort of up the academic integrity and make things easier and make things more difficult to be able to engage in things like contract cheating. Another important way to do this as well is showing the evidence of thought processes. So taking, let's say, a research paper and chopping it up into multiple stages and multiple pieces where students submit an abstract, submit an idea, get feedback. Maybe there's a peer review. Students that have to write an outline, okay, then get feedback. Then they do a first draft, get feedback. So the more you break it up into pieces and show that they've actually thought about this from start to finish is another way to ensure that or at least limit the amount of potential for things like contract cheating, as an example. Yes, more pieces does mean more marking, but there are lots of ways around that I think are important to think about. Is that you can do it, yes, it's more marking, but it's actually just more distributed. So one of the nice things is that you're not reading it for the first time. By the time you get the final draft, you have an idea of what the students are submitting and you have an idea of that process. But it's definitely something to think about, is that in any scenario, if we want to make our assessments better, it does involve more time. And more effort of all, both students and instructors. But I think the benefit is, at the end of the day, is that we're going to look at improved learning, and that's what we want for everybody.
Adam, I'm going to jump in for a minute. You did make me co-host, and that's the risk you take.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, Carol.
Come back to your point, or the point that was made about more time if you have multi-stages for your assignment. I don't think that necessarily holds, because we can build in sections where students have to do something just for completion. So if you think of a research paper, you can have them develop a working thesis, post it to My Courses, and it's just done. You check for completion, but it doesn't actually require feedback. And there's also the option of some peer feedback. And I'm going to put something in the chat right now with an example of a multi-stage assignment that does not necessarily require more instructor marking time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Carolyn. No, I mean, I think those are really important to think about, is that, and in some cases too, it might be a little bit more time to design, but as you start to implement it in your classes, you might find it's actually easier because the end results are going to be better. So a third option in terms of fostering academic integrity is allowing students to defend their ideas. So essentially creating a defense, which is what we do with our PhD exams as an example. And you might say, well, wait, how's that possible? How are we going to scale it? Well, you can use the My Course Assignments tool, make a defense, record it on a video and upload it. And then you could look at it, have TAs involved to grade it. You could use it as part of a peer assessment for peer feedback. There's an unlimited number of options that I think you could do that allow students to defend the ideas that they're actually generating as part of their assignments. And the last one, of course, is something called text matching software. And this is more on the side of the policing side, but it's definitely an option that we have available across McGill that can do text matching with any assignment that's submitted. So I want to go a little bit more deeply in the next just 2 slides to talk about this, and then we'll start to wrap it up and open it up for some more conversation. So Urken, which or original, which is the name that they're changing to. It's a terrible name. It means something in Swedish like Czech. I'm not exactly sure. Hopefully there's somebody who knows Swedish and can actually post this in the chat and let us know what it really means. But anyways, this tool is an attachment, or I guess an enhancement or plugin to My Courses, and it uses the My Courses assignment tool to scan any submission to match the text. So what does it do and how does it work? The first is you enable original or Urken for your existing My Courses assignment. So you have a My Courses assignment, you go to the little button that says Urken to original, you click there, you enable it, and it's ready to go. Then when students submit their assignments to My Courses, it will after that scan the document against multiple sources. So students submit it, it gets scanned, etc. And look, wonderful. Urken means diploma or certificate. Thank you so much for saying that. This is one of the great things about the brain trust, and you sort of throw a question out, somebody's got the answer. So great, this is wonderful. Now I know that Urken means diploma or certificate. I'm not really sure what that has to do with text matching, but anyways, doesn't matter. We'll continue. So as students submit the assignments to My Courses and scan it against multiple sources, you can actually do this in draft mode. So students can actually do this where they're submitting a draft of the assignments tool and it gets submitted into Urken and they get actually the report just like you would, or you can actually just do it with their final assessment. And what it does is it does a text matching analysis and gives you a report to the instructor or the student if you set it up that way. Urken does not work with quizzes. It only works with the assignments tool and only works with work submitted by a student. It won't work with code. So if students are writing code, it's not going to work, but it will work with any other type of language or any other type of submission that students are doing, including some things with images, although it's not able to check images, but it really just checks the text. So what does it match? It's pretty good. And it matches three major areas. The first is obviously a general archive of the internet. The second is scholarly journals that are like behind paywalls that they have access to. And the third is student submissions, which is basically, it's two parts. One is the McGill repository and a global repository. The McGill repository is anything submitted from McGill stays at McGill and stays inside McGill. So as, for example, more and more people use Urken, the more the McGill compares to McGill kind of scenario as an example. So for example, this coming fall, as some people have used it last fall and even this past winter, there'll be more papers or things inside that McGill repository. And the second is the global repository. McGill does not allow its submissions to go to the global repository, but we can check the global repository in the reports, meaning that you would find out if, let's say, Concordia or UBC or another school made their student submissions public, that you'd be able to know that it came from some other place. So it's a really great tool. I think that can be allowed. It can be used for theses. It can be used for any type of document, PDF, Word, etc., Excel, all that sort of stuff, and something that you can use with your students. Keeping in mind, this is a great tool that you can use for learning as much as you can use it for assessment security. So you can actually, again, have students do this in draft mode and enable our students to submit their assignments and get an actual report to see how they're comparing, as an example. And if you have questions about Urken, speak to your disciplinary officer. The disciplinary officers are already trained on how to do this. They know what to do with Urken. They can actually submit an individual assignment or an individual paper to Urken. So if you don't use this tool, but you have a concern with a particular assignment, you can speak to your disciplinary officer and they can actually submit it to the tool and get a report back as well. Okay. We have even more assessment tools that I'm not going to go into today, but what I do want to mention is that the link here that we have allows for tools. Many of the tools are all of the tools that we have approved for teaching use that have gone through security and privacy vetting with procurement and with IT. These are 4 other examples. Crowdmark, which is an absolutely incredible tool that allows you to scale up assessments in a very large way. Crowdmark was originally designed to do math exams with 2,000 or 3,000 people. Our entire first year of science has been using Crowdmark for a number of years. What it allows you to do is students can actually submit their assignments using templates. These templates are, if they're done face-to-face, can actually be scanned in a printer, split up so that you can actually take essentially a blue book, turn it into a digital blue book, chop up the questions and hand them out to various people to mark. It does all digital marking. And what's also amazing about Crowdmark is you have access to pooled feedback that you can draw upon. So if you and 20 TAs wish to come up with a standard sets of feedback, you can actually use that and evaluate students by drawing on standard feedback. And I know on this list of participants, there's a number of you that have used Crowdmark very effectively over the last couple of years. Others, Peer Grade for peer assessments that we're upgrading to a newer tool coming this summer. Perusal, being able to actually have a document where students are writing around and discussing a particular piece of work or an artifact. And VoiceThread, which is another amazing tool that allows allows you to actually have video or media where students can have conversations around video conversations or audio conversations around a piece of media that you want them to watch. So watch this YouTube video and have actually a live discussion or an archive discussion around that. So as you can imagine, there are a whole bunch of different assessment tools that are available. Okay, so no, there's a certain number of chaining. One of the questions is, can Urken be used within Crowdmark? Not exactly, but there might be ways of chaining some of these tools together to be able to say, okay, before you submit it to Crowdmark, you have to submit it through Urken. So submit it through this assignment tool, the report's done, and then submit it through Crowdmark. So there are some ways that you can actually connect a number of them together. And I think that, you know, we don't want to overwhelm you with 1,000 extra tools. These are here. If you're interested, you can pursue them. We really wanted to focus on the quizzes and the assignment tool because each one of these tools can go farther than a lot of people think they can. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to be able to increase academic integrity in the tools that we've provided, as well as structure those tools so that you can use them in the best pedagogical way possible. And you saw a number of examples that we have connecting the types of assessments that you want to do with the different kind of tools. And you'll notice that it's often the case that you can actually use one tool, or you can do a particular assignment in many different ways. And a great example of that is creating a presentation. You could have this done asynchronously. Students can record videos, do all sorts of work offline, and then upload it to the assignments tool. Or you could actually do it live in Zoom. Maybe they have a rubric. Maybe everybody's evaluating students going in a round robin presentation. Maybe they're doing their presentations with breakouts and they're working on that there. And there's a form that all students are filling in and providing evaluation grades or providing feedback. Or maybe you're splitting up with your TAs. So there's a whole bunch of options that are available from there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we have 15 minutes, and that I think is opening it up to a number of different tools and options I think that we can do to go forward. So before we get to the last part, which talks about our report resources, I figure I will open it up to questions and see what we can do. So maybe I know that Laura and Carolyn, you were grabbing a number or synthesizing some of those questions. Maybe do you want to pick on a few that were not yet addressed, and then maybe we can open it up to others?
Hey, Adam, could I?
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say one very quick thing before we get into the details. Is I get from the chat, there's a lot of concern, of course, about academic integrity, and even some questions about, well, why aren't we just going back to in-person assessments because that's what we've told students. And I just wanted to make it clear that the fall planning includes a bunch of scenarios, right? And the whole fall planning machine is such that we're pretty sure that there will have to be a balance between in-person and online assessments. And what we want to try to do today is just think creatively about the best way to be able to create these online assessments in a way that we've learned from what we've done this year that addresses also some of the concerns about academic integrity. I know it's not perfect, and I know many of you have very legitimate concerns as to why it's going to be a challenge to do some of these things, et cetera. But for some of you, there might be some real options here that allow some creative ways to do online assessments, knowing that we're going to have some capacity issues with the demand on in-person assessments. So it's not saying we're doing all in person. We're not saying we're all doing remote. What we're saying is we're going to be doing a mix of things in the fall. And the real question is, how can we best do the online assessments for the fall? So, and thank you for being here. The engagement is just tremendous. So I'll shut up now. Thanks, Laura and Carolyn, go ahead.
So I just wanted to say that there's a large number of questions, of course, in the chat. We will not have time to get through all of them. So what we're going to propose is that we create a list of responses, and we can put that on the TLS website afterward and communicate that to everybody who's here today to let them know it's available. And now I know, Laura, you've got the first question for Adam.
I think there have been a number of questions raised specific to large classes, that there have been concerns raised that many of the approaches recommended would work really well for a small class. But can you try and address overall specific or highlight specific tools that are better suited to large classes?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I mean, I think that there is some situations where smaller classes are easier with assessment, but that's across the board. So, I mean, I think that one of the things that's important here is that many of these tools are designed to scale at the highest levels. And if you look at a great example being Crowdmark is one of them, where there are literally thousands of students that are using the tool and allows instructors to spread out the grading. So between multiple TAs, it's actually faster, simpler, and easier than previous types of methods of doing assessments. And actually most of the discussions around Crowdmark with people that are teaching large classes is that it's far simpler than they've ever done before. And in fact, actually has enabled specifically large classes that were formerly only multiple choice face-to-face to be completely student generated responses. So while I think that it's definitely a little bit more difficult to think of creative ways to scale to large classes, it's absolutely not the case that you can't scale these tools larger than a small class. There are many people that have done this in the last term and across North America, and everybody's done the remote learning to do really successful large scale deployments of the tool. So the My Courses Assignments tool, you can do it at a large scale, and all the grading is digital. So if you wanted to do a large scale assessment across your course, it's a lot easier actually to do it with these tools than without these tools. And in fact, many of the situations is that these tools make these different kinds of diverse assessments possible that really were not possible before. Yes, sure, you can make a multiple choice exam that you did face-to-face online. Is it going to be the best use of the tool? Well, if you don't take some of the recommendations into account, scrambling questions, scrambling answers, looking at different sections, coming up with things maybe beyond just multiple choice as opposed to picking and generating questions, you're going to run into some issues. Any exam that was just literally taken face-to-face and stuck online, you're going to run into some concerns. So I think that it's going to require some thinking. And I think that goes back to Chris's comment, is that not everything has to be online this fall. And I think that's one of the critical benefits, is that we're moving into a period, post-pandemic period, where we can now pick and choose what assessments are best suited for face-to-face, what assessments are best suited for online, what activities are best face-to-face, and what activities are best online. So I think actually what's pretty exciting coming this fall is we're starting to get to a new blended opportunity where we're going to be able to decide what's best for where.
Adam, how about something that will be easy for you to answer? There were questions about the languages that Urken Original works with. Does it check against French and East Asian languages, any other language groups?
It checks against something like 30 or 40 different languages. And actually it goes one step further, is that it will check to see if something was translated from one language into English and back again, or one language into English and copied. So it actually does multi-translations back and forth. So if you found, let's say, a Russian website translated it into English and then copied it into assignment, it would pick up exactly that was done. It's also super creative at trying to get away with things where, students might hide periods in different font sizes or change colors to prevent it. It addresses all of those kind of issues. Yes, it would work in Chinese classes. Absolutely. Other questions?
I just want to say that there's been a lot of information given. We are currently working on revising the fall guidelines based on the winter that will indicate very clearly what the changes are from this current academic year in light of the return and the different different context in which the classes will be given, and that all students are expected to be in Montreal. For example, things like the force forward is, breaking an assessment into sections and having review and forward and backward allowed within the section. That builds on what are best practices for test taking advice if the students are informed very clearly of what the process is and how to allocate their time. So a lot of these adjustments that are being made will be reflected in the upcoming guidelines.
And so that's probably a good segue to the last two things to mention before we open it up to the more questions. One was that we have a number of current support resources, including the My Courses Essentials that's inside My Courses and our disruption pages on the TLS website. those disruption pages have a wealth of information. You probably have seen a lot of that before, but please do consult that if you have further questions. Our TLS consultation form here as well is definitely something that we can actually follow up with you. We scan that every day and make sure that there are people connected, whether it's a question about my courses or it's a question about course design. We're able to manage all of that. And we have some really exciting upcoming things. Upcoming in May, we are going to launch a whole new series of planning for fall 2021. And so keep an eye on that TLS events page in the coming days, I believe, or a week. We will have a whole bunch of sessions available. And on the right here, I wanted to mention we are just in the process of maybe 2 weeks away from launching our teaching and learning knowledge base that is really going to gather and highlight all of the stuff that we've been building across multiple disruption pages all over the web into one really searchable knowledge base designed to make it easy for you to find anything that you're interested in, from course planning, implementation, evaluations, or different tools that we have. So with that, the last is I'm hoping that you found some interesting ideas today that would be useful for you. We do, obviously this is the beginning of a long conversation. There was a whole bunch of questions around, further questions around academic integrity. And I think there's some more information around things where, what happens if stuff ends up in Chegg? Well, did you know you could actually issue a DCMA takedown request and they'll take it down? So there are things like that that are important to know that I think going forward, as well as ultimately, which I think is the big message that we have at TLS, is that if you're balancing out this issue of academic integrity and assessment security, the third part that isn't discussed in that particular balance is the design. And I think that you can design all of the assessments that you're doing to make it much harder to have sort of issues and much easier to foster academic integrity. DCMA is a takedown request that you can issue at a website that has copyrighted content. So if you found something of yours somewhere, there's almost always a link that you can provide that you can actually have it taken down, i.e. things like, if YouTube copies a video from somewhere and somebody uploads a movie, it's how they take it down. And Chegg and all those sites respond very quickly to takedown requests. So you are not at their mercy if you find something that shouldn't be there. It does take time. It's not immediate, absolutely, but they are forced to respond. And of course, the more lawyery the letter sounds, the better it is. So yes, a dean's help is very, very key here. So other questions that people might have that we could address in the last 3 minutes, I guess.
Maybe I'll just reiterate, we'd really like you to respond to that question. What is an idea from today's session that you would like to implement for fall 2021? Because that also gives us some important feedback about what you got from today's session.
And thanks to David Frost, he's been getting answers removed from Chegg within 3 to 4 days. Great, it's good to know. Good to know.
Thanks. And as people start putting in answers, I think maybe we'll ask Chris to have the last word.
Oh, sure. There's so many things to say. This has been quite a lively chat, and lots of great Q&A back and forth, and lots of good ideas. Yeah, I mean, this stuff does take work. Nate and others have said that in the chat. Yeah, it does, but it's good work, because this is actually, if we can create better assignments, if we can create better approaches to thinking about our online assessments, that's really going to help everybody. It's going to help the learning, and it's going to reduce the issues around academic integrity, and let us make sure that for the exams and the tests that we want to do that have to be in person, that we make sure those do happen in person, and we look at a complement of different assessment strategies. And that's really the goal, is to try to build the best possible suite of assessment strategies that are flexible in the right way, but definitely have academic integrity as one of the pieces, and really build something that's going to be the best that we can do for the fall, which will still be a challenging term, right? We're going to have our students here. We're going to be doing a lot of in-person. I think, as all of you know, the plan is to do as much in-person teaching as possible and in-person assessments as possible. But we're going to need to build a toolbox that's a robust toolbox for all of this. I will say that the associate deans will be connecting with instructors and department chairs, et cetera, to try to do a good understanding of what the demand is for the in-person assessments, because we're going to have to be scheduling those as well as the classroom activities, right? So it might be that you have assessments that are going to happen in your scheduled class time when you're in person, but there'll also be ways that we're going to have to look at scheduling in-person assessments outside of the class time in assessment hubs, as I put in the chat. But then also we're going to then have to understand how do we build the best possible remote assessments as that we can. So essentially, I want to thank Adam and Carolyn and Laura and the rest of the team who's been here to talk through some of this. I think we could spend 4 or 5 hours on this, not just 1 hour, but I think hopefully some of you have some good ideas on how, if you are thinking about and would like to continue with some forms of remote assessments, some good ways that you can do that. And it is it's a great time to start thinking of that now that the term is wrapped up and we're starting to do much more active planning for the fall. So I think that'll be my conclusion remark. Adam, anything else from you and Laura?
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, so we can go on and click away to our next meeting now. Thanks, everyone.